Hey guys, I'm Amy Kaufman with the Los Angeles Times, and we are here today with Jason Segel, who is playing David Foster Wallace in End of the Tour.
Yeah, hey.
Thanks for stopping by the newsroom.
It's really exciting. Yeah, I was here anyway, so.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Were you working on your deadline?
Just hanging out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Researching your next part.
That's right.
So we were just talking that you live in Ojai, actually, now.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I like it. Yeah. I like being in the country. It's good. I went there to read to get ready for End of the Tour, and I just stayed, so it's nice.
What drove you to go there and think, this is where I want to hunker down? And
Well, End of the Tour is, Infinite Jest is a hard book to read. It's 1,000+ pages, and it's sort of, to read it properly, it takes a couple months of dedicated focus with no distractions. So I thought I should go someplace where I could really dig into it, and I found Ojai.
there you go.
Yeah.
So you had never tried to tackle Infinite Jest before that?
No, I had read a lot of his short form stuff, like A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again, and some of his profiles on tennis and things like that, but I hadn't tried to tackle the big one. I think a lot of people's experience is they buy it and own it.
Right. It's just on the bookshelf as a bragging, right?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
So was it difficult to get through even with other people deciphering it alongside you?
Well, I think that it helped that I had to read it.
Right.
If that makes sense, because there are moments where you want to throw it against the wall. There are 20-page endnotes on tennis, but as you dig in, I think that's intentional. I think there's some element of how hard are you willing to work to get to know me that David Foster Wallace put into that book. And it was one of the most fulfilling things I ever did, finishing that. You don't feel that way when you finish like a marathon of Real Housewives. Like,
speak for yourself.
Yeah. I've never finished a long TV watching session thinking like, wow, I really did it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you got more from reading his work or through, because I know you listened to a lot of interviews he had done and stuff, from hearing from his creative work or hearing from him, the writer?
I think that Infinite Jest, while being a work of fiction, is also very autobiographical. As I read it, I felt like, well, David Foster Wallace is every one of these characters in some capacity. And so the book really, when I read it, this is just my feeling as I read it, felt like sort of a distress signal from someone saying, hey, I feel these ways. I feel unsatisfied. I feel like I'm not getting the promise that I was offered, that if I work hard, if I do the things I'm supposed to do, I should feel okay. Does anyone want to join in this conversation? That's what I felt like when I read it. It made me feel not so alone about some of my uncomfortable feelings.
Were those issues you were dealing with in your own life at that time?
I think everybody does as you reach this, early 30s sort of era of your life where you think, wait, I think I did the things that I was told to do in my 20s, and I don't feel the way I thought I would feel at the end of that road. To me, that's what the book is about.
I feel like we should back up. We didn't really even explain the premise of the movie. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, Infinite Jest is David Foster Wallace's opus. It's 1,000+ pages. When it came out, it was met with like the best reviews and critical response you could hope for. The book of the decade, writer of a generation kind of thing. And he was a literary rock star. And so Rolling Stone decided to do a profile on him, and they sent out a reporter, David Lipsky, to spend 4 days with David Foster Wallace. Swirling around David Foster Wallace at the time were these rumors of drug addiction and depression and things like that. So the movie is really a 4-day transcript of their time together. And it's about meeting your idols. It's about fame and jealousy, and it's about this really particular moment in a person's life where they get everything that they ever dreamed of and realize they still feel the same. That's a pretty terrifying moment.
The movie raises so many interesting questions, especially in the dynamic between David Lipsky, who's the Rolling Stone writer, played by Jesse Eisenberg, because it's clear that he's really jealous in a way of David and aspires to have the acclaim that David has, but David is sort of saying, like, you think you want this, but maybe you don't.
Yeah, I think of it a lot as a guy talking to his younger self. You know, when you're on the beginning side of the tunnel, you think, man, if I just get there, I'm going to feel a certain way. And then you've got David Foster Wallace at the other end of that tunnel saying, hey, man, be careful. I know you think once you get there, you're going to feel a certain way. Well, I've just found out there is no there. This tunnel just goes on forever, so be careful what you wish for. I also think it's a movie about meeting your idols. When somebody is at the top of the field that you aspire to, you sort of need them to be something other than you because it excuses why you're not there.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like you need David Foster Wallace to be some sort of genius that is separate from you. And then you meet him and you realize, oh, this is just another dude who sat at that desk longer than I did.
Pushed a little bit harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had that experience of meeting someone you looked up to and realizing, okay, maybe I have some of that in me?
Well, I think a revelation that I had at some point was that everybody is just guessing. You know, there is no, you're not born a great piano player. It's that you are willing to sit there through the part where you're bad at it until you're good. Everybody's just like you in various states of, I guess, evolution or something like that.
I also obviously assume that you thought a lot about being in the interviewee position, since that's something that happens to you all the time.
Yeah.
But this is like a very particular situation because I've interviewed you before, and with a lot of celebrity interviews, you know, you like meet at a fancy hotel and it's an hour and then you're done. But they spend, you know, days together, and he even stays. Lipsky stays at Foster Wallace's house.
Yeah.
So I mean, was that like far cry from experiences you had had?
Yeah, I don't think that you could do that in today's internet world, where the news cycle is instant. But you feel it in the movie. As soon as David Lipsky arrives, you can sense that David Foster Wallace is filled with regret that he agreed to do this.
Right, yeah.
You have somebody in your house and you realize, oh, everything I do is on the record now. And at the very beginning of the movie, David Foster Wallace says to him, I need to know that anything I tell you not to print, you're not going to print. And you can sort of say that and hope that's true, but you don't know.
Right.
You know, about halfway through the movie, David Foster Wallace says, I'm not sure if you're a good guy or not. That's a pretty scary thing to start questioning when somebody has your reputation in their hands.
Right. And this movie in particular makes you think about how lasting those impressions can be, because look at what happened to this book. It turned into a movie, and that goes on to define how we think of David Foster Wallace.
Yeah, well, what I'm really happy about is that the movie was made with so much love for David Foster Wallace and with so much empathy. You know, it's not a biopic. It's not a cradle to grave sort of expose of David Foster Wallace. It's a look at 4 days that are a very human moment. You don't need to know who David Foster Wallace is or who David Lipsky are to understand the point of the movie.
Do you feel like I mean, it's almost a year ago now that it premiered at Sundance, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You've been talking about this for a while.
Totally.
And there was like a lot of, you know, tension before it premiered because the estate of David Foster Wallace was not pleased that this was coming out.
Yeah.
Do you feel like some of that has died down now? Do you feel like you have to be less sort of defensive of it?
Well, I never felt defensive. To be honest, once I agreed to do the movie, my job is sort of to proceed unapologetically. I think for the movie to be authentic, for the performance to be authentic, you kind of have to move past any of the voices telling you shouldn't be doing this, including your own. I had my own stuff to deal with, like, will I even be capable of playing this part? Am I the guy to do it? Am I a good enough actor? You know, really scary questions. But you sort of have to, I think, within yourself say, no, I'm doing this, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. When I saw the movie, I felt like, wow, this is an extension of Infinite Jest in a lot of ways. I think, I can't guess how anybody would feel, but I know I'm really proud that we put it out there.
You're talking about the perception that people have of you.
Yeah.
You know, like you're walking through the newsroom, I'm sure people are like, I saw you and I love you, man. Like, you know, forgetting Sarah Marshall. Was it difficult for you to not have people think of you for more than your comedic work for a while?
Well,
like, was there
whether it's difficult for me is sort of up to how much attention I pay to outside voices.
Right.
if that makes sense. I think it was probably more difficult for other people to get their brain to a point where they could watch that movie and not be thinking, oh, this is strange that Jason Segel is playing this part. But what was really cool is most of the response I've got is that within 5 minutes of watching the movie, people sort of settle into the idea that, okay, for the next hour and a half, that's David Foster Wallace.
Do you think that going forward, are you in a new stage? Like, are we still going to see Jason Segel in a raunchy R-rated comedy, or are you going to take a break for a second from that?
Well, I love comedy. I think, you sort of, I was an athlete in high school, and so the idea of calling yourself an artist was something that took me a long time to get used to.
Yeah.
Right? There's a documentary called Beauty is Embarrassing that I really related to about this idea of like, it's sort of embarrassing to call yourself an artist and things like that. But, that is what we do. And I think that what you put out there should be reflective of who you are at the time. And I don't think so much about like raunchy type comedies anymore, but comedies like broadcast news, that's like the perfect kind of comedy, I think. So I have no aversion to comedy. I would love to do something great, but I want to do things that scare me and things that are representative of where I am at 35 years old.
There you go. 35, that's a good age, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Right?
I'm about to turn 30, so do you have any?
You are?
Yes. Any wisdom you've attained so far in your 30s? Does it feel different to be in your 30s than your 20s?
Yeah, it does. Because I think that in your 20s, you are really focused on establishing yourself. You're sort of like a careerist, like I'm going to make it, I got to kind of get my talons in there.
Right.
And so you spend a lot of time working constantly and working really hard and taking what comes your way. And then if you're lucky, I've been very lucky, in my 30s, I sort of feel like, okay, I've sort of got my foot in the door, and I'm probably safe in that regard. And now let's take some time and be a little bit more deliberate about what I put out there. Start thinking about who you are as an artist.
That's interesting. Thank you for the perspective.
Well, yeah, you write stuff, and like you'll start thinking about, well, what do I want to write about?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. What about like in terms of how you're spending your time? Even you were on a broadcast show for how many years? Like
9 years.
9 seasons, right?
It's a long time.
How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
How has your life changed since that ended, and has it freed you up to creatively?
Yeah, it's totally freed me up creatively. I mean, I feel incredibly lucky to be on that show, but when it ended, I felt like there's a line in the movie, in End of the Tour, where he says, "Now I'm 34 years old, alone in a room with a piece of paper." And as somebody who writes, that's really how I felt when that show ended. All of a sudden, it was just time for me to decide what I wanted to do next, and that was pretty scary. And there are moments where it's terrifying, and like looking for the next movie after the end of tour can be a really scary process, but it's really good to be scared, I think.
So you're into pushing yourself. That's a feeling that's gone well for you.
Yeah, I'm a relatively young man.
There you go. What about like the whole award season thing? Because I know Adam Levine just hosted like a fancy party for you. Just had a lunch with Mel Brooks. Like, you're pretty cool right now.
Well, I feel I was really scared when I did End of the Tour, because I felt like, all right, now you're going to find out. I took as challenging a role as I was able to imagine, and I thought, well, if this goes badly, you're going to find out you're not as good as you've believed that you are. And just to have people kind of affirm, no, you did a really good job, that means a lot to me. It helps me break out of any box that I've put myself in. You talk about listening to other people's perception. I think there was a point in my life when I thought, oh no, what I'm good for is making comedies. And when I was 17, I didn't feel that way. I felt like I could do anything. And to sort of reestablish that feeling has been really exciting for me. But yeah, yesterday I had luncheon that Mel Brooks threw, and he...
Wait, tell us how he reached out to you.
I guess he saw the movie. I think he and Carl Reiner watched the movie together, and
just chatting back and forth.
I just love to imagine it. I don't know, but what I imagine is just the best. And so he threw a luncheon to support the movie and to support me, and that's about the coolest thing in the world. He's one of my idols. I mean, Young Frankenstein, when I saw that, rocked me. I think I don't know that there would be a lavish Dracula puppet musical at the end of Forgetting Sarah Marshall if I hadn't seen Young Frankenstein.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you tell him that?
No, I didn't.
You weren't like, have you seen Forgetting Sarah
I
Marshall?
was just like, don't say anything stupid. Don't say anything stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, I always wonder if you're really with like a legend like that, like do you go for the advice question? Like, how did you do this? Or like,
You know what? I'm actually getting better at going for the advice question.
really?
Yeah. I used to think like, just don't say anything dumb. And now I think, well, I don't know. You're not going to get this opportunity again. And I don't know. If somebody asked me advice, even in a dumb way, I'd feel pretty psyched.
But have people done that to you?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
that must feel good. Like you're getting to the place where young actors you can be a mentor.
Yeah, well, you start to realize you're becoming older. I had like someone who seemed like an adult tell me that I was their parents' favorite actor. It was really confusing for me.
You're like, please no.
Yeah.
Should we take some questions from the Twitter
I
sphere?
think that sounds great.
Okay, we got a lot actually. You were
Okay,
very,
great.
even though you haven't used your Twitter in 3 years.
Yeah.
Can we address why? Because we did get some questions about that too.
Oh. Well, we were talking about it a bit before. I think you only have so much bandwidth, and I found I was spending a lot of time on the internet and like social media and stuff, and I thought I should refocus that energy on people who are actually around me.
Yeah.
I really like that stuff. I'm not above it, but I become really, I get really into it, and so.
You're never coming back, is what you're saying?
I don't know. I never say never to anything.
Hear that, guys?
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Okay, well, since you cannot check it yourself,
Yeah.
we will read these to you. Okay, so Doorstop Productions wants to say/question, there's a braveness and vulnerability that comes through in all of Segel's work. Does he seek work that celebrates outsiders?
That's a great question. Yes, I think that I have always felt a little different since I was a kid. I've been 6'4" since I was 12.
Wow.
There are a million reasons I felt different. And that's always the stuff that I related to. Like Roald Dahl books. That's the sort of central core of every Roald Dahl book is the kid who feels different. So it's that's always been what I sought out, I think.
And you
Freaks
started
and
out that
Geeks.
was Freaks and Geeks, right?
Freaks and Geeks is that, yeah.
Not to ask you will there be a reboot reunion thing, but today they dropped the Fuller House trailer, and I was like, it seems like feasible that there
Whoa.
could be a Freaks and Geeks at this point with Netflix and all. I mean, don't you think?
Well, I think it would be the coolest thing in the world. I think that, like, some of the places, I don't think Nick Andopoulos ended up someplace happy, if I'm totally honest
Maybe
with
that's
you.
enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll discuss it after we finish watching Fuller House.
Will you be watching Fuller House?
Of course.
Were you a TGIF viewer?
Yeah, totally. There was Urkel, there was Full House. Yeah.
Step by Step,
Totally.
Family Matters.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so hope is not dead for Freaks and Geeks.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure, that
No,
doesn't
no.
sound good.
No, I mean you never know. That it would be amazing. I would obviously love to do something like that.
Okay, cool. The classic movie Twitter, TCM, wants to know, Jason counts Peter Sellers as a favorite. What, if any, of Sellers did he borrow for this film?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I bring a picture of Peter Sellers with me and put it in my trailer every time I'm going to do acting.
I was really wishing you had it right now.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't carry it with me in day-to-day life. But honestly, what I thought about a lot for this movie was being there. Because Peter Sellers does almost nothing in being there in the most perfect way, but that's what the performance is about. It's like, it's a guy, it's minimalist, you know? And I thought that that was really important to go into this because there's a very fine line, especially making a transition, you know?
Yeah.
Of watch Jason Segel try acting if you try to do a little too much. So I tried to do as little as possible and just be really honest on screen. So I thought about being there quite a bit.
Interesting. Good question, TCM. Okay, to a lighter one from Honeydew. Will there ever be an I Love You Man 2?
You know, honestly, we've talked about it.
That one would work as a sequel, right?
Yeah, we have a sequel idea.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just a question of getting the gang back together, and
Wait,
if
what
people
happens to you at
really
the end?
want to see that, and yeah, I mean we've honestly talked about it.
What happens to you at the end of that?
Happy ending. Yeah.
Okay.
Paul
So-
gets married. I show up. I'm the best man.
But we don't really know where you go. So you're right. It could be a.
Yeah, we have some pretty good ideas.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this. CA Angels wants to know, has there been a role you regret not taking? And if so, what was it? That's always a hard one.
Man, the second I start thinking about regrets, you can't do anything about them. So I don't really go there that often. I try to keep looking forward, and I like learn from mistakes, but or experiences. But I don't look back too much with regret. I stopped doing that.
It's a good attitude to have. Was that a hard thing
lesson?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. All of these things. It's like David Foster Wallace's writing. One of the things that people really, I think, why they feel so personally about him is he doesn't feel like a guy who's talking at you and telling you lessons that you should be doing. It's a guy who's struggling with those lessons himself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course it's hard not to look back with regret, but I don't feel good when I do, so I try not to.
We mentioned Peter Sellers, but is there a writer growing up that you responded to in the way Lipsky does with Foster Wallace?
Oh, wow. Well, honestly, I was really inspired by Roald Dahl books. I read a series of books called Nightmares that are kind of like...
I saw today you just got a...
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's fine. They're kind of like Roald Dahl-esque books.
And you're going to be doing a second series, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a second young adult series called Otherworld, which I'm really excited about virtual reality.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like writing, and I have a great partner named Kirsten Miller, and it's really fun. But I'd say one of my other idols who, I suppose he wrote as well, but Jim Henson really inspired me growing up. Things like Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal that hit that spooky area where you feel maybe this little sense of my parents don't know what's in here. If they knew, they wouldn't let me watch this. I liked feeling that way, like I was getting away with something.
What is it like when you go out and promote those kids' books? Are you with those
It's
younger?
the best.
Yeah.
It is the best thing, honestly, because it's just nice. There's nothing cynical about it or anything like that. Do you want to hear the best story? And like all you at home, you can have this for the holidays and enjoy it. So we do these Q&As for little kids. And they ask questions like, how do you do writing? Or, how should I not be afraid? Because the books are about nightmares. And this little girl got put into the aisle to ask a question by her parents, who was like 4.
Oh my gosh.
She was way too young to have her own question, And the microphone comes to her, and her mom, who's like a stage mom kind of lady, whispers in her ear, pss, 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 and the daughter goes, Frozen. And there's this weird pause. Nobody knows what's going on. And then the mom's like mortified. She's like, I'm so sorry. Pss, 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 pss. And the daughter goes, okay. What's your favorite movie? She had answered her own question.
That's so cute.
It was the cutest thing that's ever happened to me.
So did you say Frozen?
Of course I did.
Then you did a duet of...
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to build a snowman?
Yeah, totally.
Nice. So you respond well. You feel like you vibe with the youngins.
Well, I think that what it is there's this moment where you're about to get on a track and you don't even know it, where elementary school goes into junior high, goes into high school, goes into college, goes into your job for the rest of your life. And you can catch a kid, it happened to me, like with the Goonies, you can catch a kid at the moment before they get on that track and say, like, don't forget there's buried treasure. Don't forget there's magic around that corner. It's what happens in Harry Potter, That's really important. I don't know that I would have tried to become an actor if the Goonies hadn't found buried treasure.
There you go. Have you started writing the new books yet?
Yeah, we've started. Book 3 of Nightmares comes out this year, and then Otherworld will come out next year.
Get it at your local Barnes & Noble or whatever, right?
Totally.
Cool. So as we wrap up, this is the season of, they call it award season out here in Hollywood. And is that something that's important to you? Like all these Mel Brooks and everyone sort of stumping for you, but would you like to be nominated? I'm sure that would be.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I think there is an important...
Don't even front, right?
Yeah, well, I think so. Honestly, I think that is an important thing. There's a distinction of I'm not going to place my happiness and value in it because I never want to put, the experience of end of tour in a position where I feel like it was not a success because it means more to me than anything that's happened in a long time in my career. But, of course, that's everything you ever dream of when you're a kid. So yeah, all of that stuff means a lot to me. But I honestly feel like I'm in winning territory right now. Just having people that I really respect respond to the performance.
Totally. I would be very into a Jason Segel Oscar speech.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be great.
I would expect a lot from it, to be honest, though.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of jokes,
All right.
but endearing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'll look forward to it in 2016 and beyond.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you for stopping by, Jason.
Thank you. This was a blast.
Great. Thank you, guys. Awkward.
How'd it go?
Look at
Good?
this and then, yeah. Cool.
Good.
Yay. Was that enough time? Hey.
Hey.
Hi. Wait, so now, so you go back to Ojai every day?